we need to talk about AI music. So the whole idea for this video started because I don't know if you guys have been on Twitter or Zitter, but over the last couple of days, there's been this huge explosion of people sharing text to video prompts from OpenAI's new text to video generator Sora, which has definitely been by far the most lifelike, detailed text to video prompt, with some caveats notably. But since this is a music channel, right, I figured I would investigate AI music. And everyone who knows anything about anything told me I needed to check out Suno AI, which is the latest in text to music prompting. And oh my God, I have some thoughts. So first off, I want to say, I know how you guys feel. When you hear about generative music, the heart starts pounding, the fear sets in, you get worried, right? But I want to allay some of those fears after spending about 2 days messing around with Suno, generating different songs and listening to the quality, thinking about how this will play out in the music industry. Do I think Suno will replace songwriters, producers, musicians in general? I don't think so as of right now. A lot of things would have to happen for that to happen. And I don't think, again, after messing around for about 2 days with it, that we're sort of anywhere near that. But is Suno powerful? Yes. And let me go into why right now. So first off the bat, the early AI text to music generators that I messed around with about a year ago were, how shall I say, rather primitive and didn't really generate anything coherent musically. Usually just about 20 to 30 second loops of something that approximated the genre you were going for. And that is certainly not the case with Suno. Well, it's sort of not the case. You'll see what I mean in a moment. So if you go to Suno, what you can do is enter custom lyrics and really specify the genre you want in custom mode, or in their more general mode, you can just type in a text prompt of what you want, and a 40 to a minute 20-second long piece of music will be generated. And I mean piece of music. You are getting lyrics that rhyme. You are getting section coherence, meaning verses, because it's popular music, and that's another thing I'll get into, but verses and choruses, they are differentiated from each other in a really incredible way. And the singing and the hooks are rather impressive. And so you might be thinking, wait, what are you talking about? I thought we said we didn't need to worry about this. Well, we don't need to worry, but it is rather amazing. I will say that as an iterative, software. However, here is where it doesn't quite work, and why I think creation of art is uniquely human. And this isn't something I was completely settled with as a thought before. I wasn't totally sure. I mean, ever since AI has exploded over the last couple of years, I have wondered, is there really any use for us? Which is crazy, because I do music professionally. But after messing around, like I said, with Suno, my questions about this have been somewhat allayed. And let me tell you why. So if you want to generate what sounds like a 2012 era EDM banger a la Zed and Foxes, you are certainly able to do that on Suno. And let me play you a few examples. Right off the bat, one of the first things I noticed is that this program is not very good. In fact, not good at all at understanding the subtleties of genres or slight micro genres. For example, one of my favorite styles of music is what I would call mid-'80s neo-psychedelia. So Rain Parade, Robin Hitchcock, obviously XTC, stuff like that, right? So I asked Suno, which, by the way, cannot use artist names as references, which just goes to show you that even if this gets beyond the ability that it has now, we're already running into issues with generative audio AI possibly running afoul of intellectual property. The point being is I asked for a mid-'80s, basically alt-rock song, and here's what it gave me. Moving down the avenue in a whirlwind of me and you. Now, as you noticed, this is what I played earlier for the example of pop EDM banger from like 10 years ago. And that's sort of what I kept encountering over and over again with Suno is if I tried to ask for specific things, for example, 60s Sunshine Pop, not naming any artist, but just asking for 60s Sunshine Pop, not exactly good. And now, listen, this sounds like a great K-pop song, or at least the genesis of one, but not what I asked for at all. And that, again, seems to be the consistent problem with Suno. For example, just one more example, and then I'll move on to my final thoughts. When I asked, as you can see in the prompt here I'm putting on screen, for a 70s brooding hard rock song, so in my mind, I'm picturing something like Planet Caravan, Black Sabbath, or No Quarter, Led Zeppelin, right? And what it gave me was honestly something that sounded sort of like an approximation of Jane by Jefferson Starship. Admittedly, a rock band from the 70s, though the late 70s, which, if you're a fan of 70s rock music, you know there's a pretty big distinction between what was popular in 1979 versus 1973. But also, it's not at all brooding. Lost in chains, living tight. Lost in your eyes, drowning in the night. And again, this just demonstrates that Suno is really not able right now to create stuff that people want specifically. It can sort of generate, as I've mentioned a couple times here, slop, but that brings me to my next point. How useful is it to just generate slop? Because if we listen to these songs that were generated that sound the most coherent in my generation library, they're good in a sense. They're coherent. There's the right drum fills in the right places. The melodies sound like melodies. Which is really incredible to think that no human technically was involved in the making of this song. Again, the data scraping we have no knowledge of, but the melodies are certainly melodies, but there's a stilted sort of feel. Going back to that first song I generated, when I first heard it, I thought, okay, maybe this could have been on Taylor's 1989 or something. But then I went, wait, first of all, there's no way Taylor Swift would write lyrics this shallow. And these lyrics are quite shallow, like as surface as it can possibly get. So then I went, okay, no, it wouldn't be on 1989 in this form. And so then I said, well, what would it take? Well, the lyrics would have to be rewritten. And also, we're only getting a minute and 20 seconds here. We're missing intros, outros, bridges, different production flourishes. So basically, even at its best case scenario right now, Suno tracks would need to be downloaded. Lyrics would have to be reworked because everything I generated, and I'm using this as an example, but even the rock song I played the lyrics were just stilted. And again, I'm not trying to downplay. Incredible achievement that lyrics that rhymed and even remotely related to what I asked for were able to come out. That's truly incredible. But it still needs massaging for it to be something coherent. And I know the argument from AIists and tech bros will be like, oh, but it's here now. Imagine where it's going to be. Imagine where it's going to be. Like, okay, sure, this will improve, but like, at what point does this become a sigmoid curve or an asymptote type situation? Because sure, the audio may get less degraded. The vocals will continue to grow more and more human-like, and the lyrics will become less and less stilted. But I really do think this may be, and I'm not trying to cope, I'm not trying to do anything. It's just from listening to this and then scaling what I'm hearing up in my head, this kind of feels like, yeah, an asymptote type. I believe I'm using that term right. Basically, in math, when something approaches something but never quite intersects with it, but just keeps running infinitely and infinitely alongside it forever. That's kind of what I feel like is happening here, because ultimately what we are listening to is a facsimile of music. Again, I'm not trying to say, and I've heard people say this when referring to AI stuff in general, that, oh, it's not art, it's not art. Listen, I can't make the decision what's art and what's not, because art depends on context and recontextualization, etc. So I'm not going to say this is or isn't art, right? It's something. But I do think even with the improvement of where we're at, we are still looking at a copy, basically. And there's something, and I can't quite place it. This is maybe what the uncanny valley is. There is just something odd about the Suno generated music. That's just slightly, I wouldn't say unsettling, but just off slightly. And I don't think scaling and improving is going to totally shake that feeling of something being slightly off, in my opinion. But to end this on a positive note, I think if you are like a YouTuber who wants a song about a silly subject and you are not a musician, I think Suno is probably perfect for that, right? Just generating something quick about whatever subject you want that is catchy ish and is coherent. I think that is something that this will be really helpful for. But as far as use in actual music, even the most generic of pop songs, I I'm not sure that this really is even good for forming a base of that because again, there's just this stilted, weird quality. But anyways, that's just my thought. I do not think this will be replacing musicians or music in general anytime soon, despite what weird AI tech bros on Twitter keep repeatedly saying. Again, when you don't understand art, I can understand why you might say that. But anyways, guys, that just wanted to put this up on this channel because it's a music channel. This is sort of what we're talking about, and more scripted videos and original music. Thank you all for streaming. Everyone knows that will be coming soon. And I will see you guys in the next one. All right. Bye bye.